Okay, welcome all. Parshas Terumah. Okay, these Parshas are very challenging, right? The boys set up the chairs this way. It's not, you don't have to keep it where it is. They were designing the room. So these Parshas are surprising and challenging. First of all, many Sfarim point out, there's nothing else in the Torah that gets as much ink as the Mishkan. Some of the most major halachas we have are referred to by one word, by one pasuk. And here in the Mishkan we have Terumah, we have Tetzaveh, parts of Kisisa, Vayakel Pekudei. It tells us what the Mishkan was made out of. It tells us the measurements and how it's supposed to be made. And it tells us the Big Day Kahuna and how those are made. And then it tells us that they gathered it all together. And then it tells us that they built it. And it's astounding. And especially because we don't know how to relate to it. We know that the Torah is eternal, but what does that mean? I'm supposed to build a Mishkan now? Right? I don't see the action point on this, and I don't see what I'm supposed to learn from it. So again, there are many, many different approaches to it. Obviously, like anything in the Torah, every small detail is connected to very, very deep principles and secrets of Torah. Right? That the Mishkan itself was a miniature of the universe. That's what it's called in Sfarim. And every detail of it parallel an aspect of Hashem's universe. If you want to get a little taste of it, is so the Malbim, if you look on these Parshas, he wrote an extra perush. In other words, he has his usual perush, and then he adds in one where he gives some of the more mystical, if you want to call it, from the Sifrei Kabbalah aspects of these kelim, what they are. Why is it 3.5 amas? Why is it this? Why is this out of gold and why is this out of silver? All of those things have meaning. But the bigger question that we have, and it's a real question in Judaism Bichlal, is what is the whole concept of a holy place? How can there be one place where you connect with Hashem more than another? Because Hashem is everywhere, right? In Kriya Shema, when we're supposed to think Hashem echad, lamala lamata, ula'arba ruchos hashamayim. Or as Uncle Moshe phrases it, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is really everywhere. Right? So that, he wouldn't lie to the Jewish children. So if Hashem's everywhere, that means he's in Cape Town, right? That's Raya. He's in Cape Town, he's in Kansas City, he's everywhere. So how can, and again in the Lashon of the Yisrael, he's Mamale kol almin soviv kol almin. He fills all the worlds, he surrounds all the worlds. So what's this idea that in the Mishkan, it's somehow different. In Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, in Har Bayis, in the Beis HaMikdash, that it's different. It's something that people wrestle with. So a friend of mine once explained it very beautifully with a mashal. Right now, when we're sitting in this room, there are radio programs. You can transmit it through this room. Why don't we hear them? We don't have a receiver, right? And if we do have a receiver, depending on the quality of your receiver, you can hear things from much further away. Right? And you can get broadcasts that are out there from everything. So the idea of a Makom Kadosh for us is a place where we're able to receive, to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence more. Right? The old joke that they would say in Israel, right? The call to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a local call. Right? It costs less. Right? Those terms don't even mean much to people anymore. The idea of a local call in a long distance. So now we have to take a look at the Mishkan in those terms. The Mishkan, part of what frustrates people about these parshas is when you start going through it in detail, many people who are not artistically inclined, like me, right, get very frustrated. It's like, it's art, it's Lego, to understand how these pieces went together. The curtains reached till here, and then they folded it over, and they pinned them up with this, and the pins were made out of copper, and what and why do I learn this? So all of this was spiritual engineering, not physical engineering. We know that you can make a copy of a Mishkan. Nowadays, many people have made beautiful models of the Mishkan. They take children, when they learn these parshas in school, to see them. The Mishkan, the true building of the Mishkan itself, was the spiritual engineering. That's what Chazal say, that Batzalel and Oholiav knew the Tserufi Osios. They knew the source code, so to speak. How the entire world is created out of letters of our Aleph Beis. Just like, again, as a mashal, if you look at something on the computer screen, if a person's a real genius, he can tell you the lines of code that produce that image. That's what's behind there. They say the Balatanya, toward the end of his life, said that I don't see things anymore. I see the letters of Lashon HaKodesh that are their root. If he would see a tree, he would see the letters Ayin Tzadi, because the tree is simply a projection of that. So this is what Betzalel and Oholiav were constructing, but the most important material that they had, the most important material they needed, is there in the first pasuk. V'yikchu li truma me'es kol isha she'yidvenu libo tichchu es trumasi. You will take from me a truma, this donation, this where people will separate from their possessions and give it, but only from a person whose heart drives him to give. Tichchu es trumasi, you will take my truma. So let's try to see what's going on there. What's describing is the desire of Bnei Yisrael. And the desire of Bnei Yisrael here was very key. First of all, part of the tension in terms of the entire building of the Mishkan was, after Chet HaEgel, would Am Yisrael be capable of building a Mishkan? Right? Everything was building up to a climax. Am Yisrael spent their time in Mitzrayim. They were the Makos. They came out. They prepared themselves for Matan Torah, the most significant event in the world. And then there was Chet HaEgel. And suddenly the GPS recalculated. And now the question was, would they be able to build a Mishkan? Why would they have to build a Mishkan? The Ramban, in his introduction to Sefer Shmos, says something very important for us to know for our Pesach Seder and for who we are. The book of Shmos he calls Sefer HaGeula, the book of redemption. He says, when did the redemption happen? Not as we think when they left Mitzrayim, not even when they went through the Yam Suf and got to the other side, not even just at Kabbalah Satorah, because the ultimate thing they were supposed to reach is what he calls to return to Malas Avosam, to return to the level of their Avos, right? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and to be able to be a Merkava LaShechina, what's called a chariot for the Shechina, meaning that the Shechina would be able to dwell among them. That is the picture of Jewish redemption. Okay, everything was a step towards that. But until it would happen, and therefore if you look through Sefer Shmos, there's tension all the way till the end of Parshas Pekudei when that happens. When Moshe Rabbeinu puts up the Mishkan and the Shechina is there, and then they're finally redeemed. So that's what's going on. And the only thing that can make that happen is the desire of Am Yisrael for that relationship, for that v'shachanti b'socham. So that's why the materials for the Mishkan were really not that much. Again, it sounds grandiose when we read it. There was gold, there was silver, there were all these things, but the Mishkan was a relatively small structure. Okay, the Beis HaMikdash was much larger. The Mishkan was relatively small. Correct. They would pack it up and take it with them. So how much material was needed? Why was so much made of this idea of what they gave? So it was because of the way in which they gave it. And here, this Sefer, this Rebbe Elazar David Friedman, he brings beautiful things from many Rabbanim he knew personally, both in Czechoslovakia and then during the war, after the war, from many different communities and many Sfarim. So he says that he brings here from someone who was the Rav of Satmar. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Greenwald. Okay, not the Satmar Rav, but he was a Dayan in the city of Satmar. And he explains this double lashon in the pasuk. It says, "V'yikchu li truma, take from me truma, meis kol isha she'yidvenu libo, from everyone whose heart pushes him to give. Tikchu es trumasi." Why the double lashon tikchu es trumasi? It already said take the truma. So he explains that truma. See, Hashem says, "What is my truma?" That's the desire which is left after they gave. They gave. Everything they had, they gave, and they wanted to give more. They wished they could give more. Hashem says, that's my truma. That's truly what they give to me. That desire to give more than what they have, to be able to do that, is Hashem's truma that he's looking for, that he wants. The Sfas Emes in Sukkot mentions, he says, that more than HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do a mitzvah actually, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the desire that we have to do the mitzvah. When a person has desire to do it, that shows that we're not simply doing it robotically, what's called Maisa Kof Ba'alma, monkey see, monkey do. But it's because we want to. We want to give, we want to do what Hashem wants. We want to bring Nachas Ruach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the beauty of what we can bring to it. And even if we can't do everything we would want to do, that itself is the most beautiful. That's why the famous Perish Rabbunim Parshas, he says, we say, Habocher b'shirei zimra. Hashem chooses songs of zimra. Rabbunim said that means Habocher b'shiorei zimra. A person sings to Hashem, but you can never fully express everything which is in your heart. Words are limited. Hashem chooses that which is still in your heart. That yearning, that which is there, which is beyond everything you said, everything you expressed, everything you gave. Right? Sometimes we'll say that to someone, I have no words. I have no words. Right? It's something which is there. Somebody told me, a friend of mine lives far away from me in Beit Shemesh. Someone I know said, on Rosh Hashanah, he made a mishaberach for you on Rosh Hashanah. And I told him, I said, I have no words. I was like so touched by it. It was so, I didn't know how to express it. That's Shiorei Zimra. That expresses the heart and the desire and what a person wants. So therefore, we have to not underestimate the power of wanting. Okay? We're all limited. We all have limitations in terms of what we can do. But in terms of the idea of Ratzon, a Jew is supposed to be full of Ratzon. Ratzon is actually the nefesh. Rashi explains Avram Avinu's request from Bnei Ches. He says, Im yeshes nafshechem. If this is your nefesh, right? Piguli be'Ephron ben Sochar. Speak to Ephron to give me the Maras HaMachpelah. Rashi says, nafshechem is ritzonchem. The nefesh, our true essence is ratzon, is desire. That is who we are. Who we are is what we want. Chazal say that deep, deep inside, our true ratzon is, it says, every Jew says inside, Ritzoneinu lasas ritzoncha. Our ratzon is to do what Hashem wants. That ratzon is something which is infinite. Okay? There's a phrase that people quote that sometimes, I believe, is misused. It's ein davar omed bifnei ratzon. Nothing can stand up before your will. Okay, nothing stands up to Ratzon. So first of all, where does it come from? The Talmud Rebbe said he tried looking. He got as far as the writings of the Chidah of Chaim Yosef David Azulai, which again is very important. That was about 400 years ago. And he quotes it in the name of a medrash, but we don't have that medrash. There are many midrashim, like Rav Kasher in his book Torah Shlema gathered many midrashim that we didn't have. Some he got from the Cairo Geniza and other places, but we still don't have all of them. Now, the reason I say it's sometimes abused is that people will blame someone for anything they weren't capable of doing, right? You know why you don't know Shas by heart? Because you don't want it bad enough. If you wanted it, you could do it, right? Even out there in the world of sports, you have a coach telling his poor kid who's got loose joints and crossed eyes, and he says, you could be a Major League Baseball player if you really wanted it. It's not true. Okay, the person sometimes has objective limitations, and it's cruel to blame them for not wanting it bad enough. Okay, so if so, then what would that phrase mean? So the Imri Emes, the Ger Rebbe, said it means the following. In our lives, we have limitations. He says, but in your world of Ratzon, in your world of desire, that's infinite. Meaning, I would love to take care of every poor person in the world and give them everything they need. But I can't. I have my limitations, but in your world of desire, you don't have limitations. And you should never cut down that world of desire. Ein davar omid bifnei ratzon. There are no obstacles in your world of ratzon. You should want everything. It's a very cute story about Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter founded what was called the Kovna Kolo. It's really the first kolo of its kind that really took great Talmidei Chachamim and tried to enable them to continue learning and become leaders in Am Yisrael, and many of them became very great leaders. So somebody once saw him sitting with an older man in shul talking to him about the Kovna Kolol and what his goals were for it and why it's so important for Am Yisrael. And after he walked away, somebody came over to him and he said, Rebbe, I never knew that man had money. He said, he doesn't. He said, then why were you telling him about how important it is to support the Kovna Kolol? He said, he should also have the schus to want to support the Kovna Kolol. Right? He said, that desire is real. Desire is that which built a Mishkan. The physical things were only able to do what they did because they were imbued with the desire of Am Yisrael. And now we get this answer which is there. How can the infinite HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, take up residence? It says HaKadosh Baruch Hu said he wants dira b'tachtonim. He wants a place to dwell in this lower world. But he's infinite. Shlomo HaMelech, when he built the Beis HaMikdash, he said, Hinei hashamayim u'shmei hashamayim lo yichalkalucha. The heavens and the heavens of the heavens cannot contain you. Right? How can it be in the Abayis Hazeh, in this building which we build? So the answer is that it was built with something infinite. It was built with the Ratzon of Am Yisrael. The Ratzon is as far as HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Ratzon. We want everything that Hashem wants. Ritzonenu lasas ritzoncha. And that connects the finite us with the infinite HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the meeting place. When they talk about the Beis HaMikdash being the place where heaven and earth meet, that means the finite meet the infinite, right? And that's what we're able to do, what we're able to reach in this world. And it comes from that yearning. I say a story. Somebody came to Rav Yoshiv once, and he said that there was, he said, you know, in my life, I wanted to do so much. And I tried what I could. I didn't really succeed in that much. I think that when my time comes, they're going to have to write on my matzeva, he tried, or he wanted to do more. Rav Yoshiv said, if I were walking through a Beis HaChaim and I saw such a matzeva, I would stop and daven next to it. Right? The idea of this wanting, which is there, that goes on beyond what we're able to do, this HaKadosh Baruch Hu values and wants very much. Now let's not make a mistake. The Piasetzin Rebbe writes in his Sfarim in a few places of the danger of simply expending your energy on almost fantasies of what you want to do. Meaning I can sit here and say, you know, I would love to build an institution that would take care of these people, and I would like to build houses for everyone who had to move out of the South and, you know, rebuild this and do that, and you spend so much time in your fantasies that you don't end up doing anything. In fact, you identify with your fantasies so much, you think that you're great for dreaming of doing so much, but you didn't do anything. It's almost like what they explain in terms Chazal saying, "Emor ma'at v'aseh harbeh." Say little and do a lot. Why? Why not say a lot and do a lot? Because if you expend your energy in talking about it so much, a lot of times you don't have that energy of doing anything anymore. You think you've accomplished just by talking. That's not the type of ratzon that we're saying. We're talking about ratzon here is you want to do so much, and you express it by the bit that you're able to do, and that imbues that limited thing that you're able to do with your infinite ratzon. That's the beauty of it. That is what the Mishkan was. It was the infinite ratzon of Am Yisrael that went into that small limited building and made it infinite. There's a Or Chaim HaKadosh that's very instructive. The beginning of Parshas Bamidbar. Let me see if I can get the numbers straight, because this time of day, no, it's not that late. Okay, in Parshas Bamidbar, it starts off that Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, Bamidbar Sinai, Ba'ohel Moed, okay, in the Sinai desert, in Olam Moed, the Mishkan, Barishon, on the first of the, Chodesh HaRishon, on the first day of the first month in the second year that they left Mitzrayim. So the Or Chaim HaKadosh asks, wait a second, there's always a parallel between time and place in Torah. But here when it describes the place, the location, it's going from general to specific. In the desert, the Midbar, the general location, Ba'oel Moed, the specific location. But when it gave the date, it went like we do, day, month, year. Specific, more general, more general. He says, how can that be? They're out of sync. That doesn't fit the way the Torah does things. Answers the Or Chaim HaKadosh, it's exactly parallel. The location is also going from specific to general. The Midbar Sinai, that's the specific location. The Oil Moed is the general location. Now we read the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, we start scratching our heads. We say, with all due respect, if you look with your Google satellite at Midbar Sinai, you would see, we know the dimensions of the Mishkan. It was a small building that they would put up inside a very large Sinai desert. Says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, you're forgetting what was inside the Mishkan. The Mishkan contained the Torah. And everything in our world is really a projection from within the Torah. So therefore, Ohel Moed is truly the general location of everything. That's the infinite. That includes everything which is there. In that small building, everything else is a projection of it. So that's what we were able to build with that desire. And that's the Ein Davar Omid B'fnei HaRatzon. So a person, on one hand, faces a dilemma now. One of the challenges of Judaism is that you can never do enough. There are a lot of things in the world that you can really complete. You can take a course in something, you can pass the course, you can get your certificate. Right? There are many things that you know the criteria, you do it, and you finish it. In Judaism, you're never done. You're never done, quantitatively and qualitatively. No one ever felt that they finished learning all Torah. In fact, our greatest people are called Talmidei Chachomim, wise students. If you would ask any of them that knew so much at the end of their life, Rav Avad Yosef, Rav Yosef, any of them, did you finish? I barely scratched the surface. I just began. The more you learn, the more you discover. So for some people, that can be very pressuring, right? Because when am I going to be able to rest? I have to always do more. So you did that. Okay, now do this, right? Learn it with the Tosfos now. Right? Do this. Have more kavanah. Do endlessly. That shouldn't get us down. Because lo alecha hamelacha ligmar, it says in Pirkei Avos, you don't have to complete it. But tell me, Mena. You're not free to just drop it because you say, I can't complete it. You just have to do the things that you have to do. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter used to say, right, tun nicht uftun, he would say in Yiddish. He says, you don't necessarily have to accomplish and complete. That's not your job. You have to do what you have to do. And therefore, a person's supposed to be able to feel good with that and not to cut down their desires so that you'll say, okay, I'm just going to desire a little, so I'll finish that and I'll feel good about myself. The Jewish way, right, they bring here from there was a Rebbe, the Lisker Rav, Tzvi Rosh of Liska. He said you can have two people come into a shul, planning to daven with kavanah. One davens a beautiful Shemona Esrei, he has great kavanah with everything. The other one, like so many of us, gets distracted 2 words in, starts thinking about this, that, and the other thing. And then, like they say, he finds his head down, he says, oh, I must be in Modim. Right? They say you have to thank your body for bowing down in Modim, so you remember you're in Shemona Esrei. So that person feels very bad afterwards. He said it could be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the davening of that second person more than the first person. Because if the first person is a little bit gaivadik, and he's going out like, yes, that was a great davening, I got it. And the first person feels brokenhearted, I wanted to daven. I so wish I could daven better. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that heart which desires, sees that wanting, and chooses that. Right? That is what's so special there. The Melech Biderman brought down an interesting question. The halacha is on Chanukah, on Purim, if you're benching and you forgot Al HaNisim. So what do? So you scramble to the back of your bencher, and there in the Harachamons, there's a Harachamon you can add in. You add in Harachamon Uyasalonu Nisim Niflos. Hashem should please do for us miracles, like He did for our forefathers back then. And then you start Bimei Matisyo or Bimei Mordechai Vester, and you add that in. Question is, number one, where do you get license to ask Hashem to do miracles for you? We don't see that in any other places in our davening. Hashem, please do miracles for us. We don't see it. And number two, if that's supposed to be somehow replacing the Al HaNisim that you forgot, but that nusach doesn't appear in the original. It's not there. So he brought a fascinating answer. I forget who it was from. He said, because that person who forgot Al HaNisim is tzibrochen, right? He feels so down. What happened to me? Chanukah comes once a year. Purim is just one day. Here I am. I'm benching my Purim Suda. I forgot Al HaNisim. What is wrong with me? I'm so sorry. I wish, I could remember when a person has that broken heart and that yearning and that desire, he's able to ask for miracles. He's on a different madrega at that point. So this is the power of the yearning and desire. And this is Am Yisrael. There's a beautiful story that came out now. So many stories from the war about a soldier who came back his first time to get home after however many weeks. And he came home and his mother asked him, what would you like first? You know, what can you cook for him? He said, I want a picture of the Beis HaMikdash to put up in my room. What? Why? He says, because every house we were in Gaza, they had a big picture of Al-Aqsa Mosque on the wall. And I said, they have their dream of their place, and that's motivating them. And they're aspiring to something. Why don't I have mine? That's powerful, right? And in fact, we find the same thing in the beautiful story of Rabbi Akiva and his wife Rachel, right? We all know the story. She came from the house of Kalba Savua. She married him against her father's wishes. They were penniless. They were living in a barn. They would sleep in straw. And Chazal say that Rabbi Akiva would pick the straw out of Rachel's hair, and he says, when I'm able to, I want to make for you a takshi. It was called an Ir Shel Zohav, the famous Yerushalayim Shel Zohav. It was a type of adornment, a tiara, right, made out of gold, in the image of the city of Yerushalayim. That represents our desires and our dreams, right? This is something, to have that idea, that was what was crowning the life of Rabbi Akiva and his wife. That's what they were heading towards. Okay, it wasn't just the idea, you know what, I'll get you some more food next week if we can earn more. Certainly you have to work towards that, but you never forget that big dream which is there. That's why Am Yisrael never forget. When we turn towards where the Beis HaMikdash is when we daven, that's not just nostalgia, right? That's real. That's us. That's where we're going, right? The Reform movement, the first thing they took out of the Siddur were all references of returning to Eretz Yisrael, of returning to Yerushalayim. They said, how can we say we're good German citizens if we keep saying we're going to be out of here? But that's the key. Am Yisrael are traveling towards something. And that future is sure. We know that we're there and we're getting there. We have to never give up wanting it, even though the steps that we can take towards it sometimes are very limited and sometimes we fall backwards. But we always have to remember to want. That's what we live through with the building of the Mishkan. And each of us are always building our own Mishkan, the famous words, Vilvavi Mishkan Evne. May we be zochet to build that Mishkan and see the real Beis HaMikdash Me'erev Yameinu.